Hey everybody, it's Robert. So today I'm going to talk to you about probably one of my favorite EDHs, and that is obviously mono red from what you can see here, but it is Neheb the Eternal. So before we get into it, I'd just like to say that this deck is in no way, shape, or form budget. This was built for competitive multiplayer EDH. The deck itself, actually, when he was spoiled, because we haven't had anything this good for mono red since I've played Commander. So as soon as he was spoiled, this deck was built and waiting for him to come out. So since his release, he has been at the helm of this deck. So without further ado, let's get into it. Neheb the Eternal, 5 mana, 4/6, afflict 3. Whenever he becomes blocked, defending player loses 3 life. At the beginning of your post-combat main phase, second main phase, add 1 red to your mana pool for each 1 life your opponents have lost this turn. So there's a lot of things that we can do with this, and there's a lot of ways that we are going to abuse this. So this is, I feel, a pretty unique build of Neheb, and I guess we'll start with the mana base, get that out of the way. So we're playing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 basic mountains. Our non-basic package, 1 tectonic edge, forgotten cave, just for late game so we can cycle it if we don't need it. Valakut, myriad landscape, mana ramp. Mirror Pool, mainly here for the second ability, sacrifice Mirror Pool, copy target instant or sorcery spell you control. You can choose new targets for the copy. That becomes very relevant, especially late game. Teetering Peaks, just because. Ash Barrens, basic land cycling. Smoldering Crater, again, late in the game. If we don't need this land, we can cycle it. Smoldering Spires. There is an infinite combat in this deck, and making him unblockable with this land, or we have Rogue's Passage to do it as well, makes it infinite commander damage to each opponent. Temple of the False God, Ramanop Ruins, because it's 2 damage to each opponent. So if we crack this to itself, 6 damage. We invested 4 mana to get 6 mana in our second main phase. This is just another way to deal some incidental damage. Flamekin Village, a way to give Neheb haste, or any of our big creatures for that matter. Desert the Fervent, again, cycling. And Drown Your Temple. And there is a nice combo. I'll go ahead and get into that pile next. That way we can talk about this. Drown Your Temple and Aggressive Mining. So you don't want to play Aggressive Mining early in the game. You want to play it later on in the game when you don't really need lands no more. And you want to play it with this in play, because you can return this to the battlefield, sacrifice it to draw 2 cards. So every turn you can draw 2 extra cards, and in red, having a permanent card draw engine is extremely rare and extremely valuable. So next card draw, we're playing Rowdy Crew. It's not the best, but he does draw you 2 cards. You have to or draw you 3 cards, my bad. Then you have to discard 2 at random, but you're still drawing 3 cards in red. Pretty good. Combustible Gearhulk. Anyone who plays the current standard, I feel like Combustible Gearhulk is pretty self-explanatory. But when he enters the battlefield, target opponent may have you draw 3 cards. If that player doesn't, put the top 3 cards of your library in your graveyard. Then Combustible Gearhulk deals damage to that player equal to the total converted mana cost of those cards. Most of the time, they're probably going to mill you, and they're going to take some damage. But you do this main phase 1, you've got Neheb in play, assuming they took 6 or more damage, which it's likely in this deck, you will have his mana back, sometimes more. 1 Wheel of Fortune, playing Magus of the Wheel, which is Wheel of Fortune on a stick. Reforge the Soul, 5 mana Wheel of Fortune, but if you top deck it for your first card of your turn, you can miracle it for 2 mana. And Simprotter, to me, even though he is 3 mana, he is the red Dark Confidant, except better, because instead of you taking damage, your opponent takes damage. Well, yeah, at the same time, he's also a mini Combustible Gearhulk, but on every upkeep. Alright, so we do have a lot of instant and sorceries. So we're playing Goblin Dark Dweller, in which he can't hit some of the instant and sorceries, but he can hit a lot of the relevant ones. So 5 mana Pseudo Snapcaster Mage. And Satyr Fire Dancer. Again, a lot of instant and sorceries, and a lot of them go to face instead of creatures, so he can turn those kind of into board wipes. And then, just because I really like these cards, and I have won the occasional game or two off of them, playing all 3 of these: Final Fortune, Last Chance, and Glorious End. So, the red time stop, 3 mana, end the turn. Downside, if you can't win during your next turn, you lose the game at the end. And these are the same way. Both of them 2 mana, take an extra turn. You have to win the game the next turn or you lose the game. In which, if we're casting any of those 3, we plan on winning the game instantly. Alright, so to help out with Neheb, these are permanent based damage that we can do every turn. So Thermal Alchemist, tap, deal 1 damage to each opponent. So tap, 3 mana in our second main phase. If we cast an instant or sorcery, we can untap him, do it again, get 6 mana next main phase. Nettle Drone, tap, 1 damage to each opponent. So to me, he reads tap, get 3 mana next main phase. Akoum Hellkite, which is pretty much a worse Valakut. Let's see, deals 2 damage to target creature or player if you drop a mountain, which we're going to drop mountains, but any land is 1 damage, a mountain is 2 damage. And it's only 1 target, but he is a 4/4 flying beater that can deal damage to face. Gutter Snipe. Whenever we cast an instant or sorcery, deal 2 damage to each opponent. So we cast an instant or sorcery, that means 6 mana second main phase. Fanatic of Mogus. When it enters the battlefield, it deals damage to each opponent equal to your devotion to red. So pretty much that's 4 mana, 4/2. That gives us a buttload of mana. Tunneling GOP. 3 mana, 3/2. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under our control, deal 1 damage to each opponent. Again, this card really reads, play land, get 3 mana. And then a Hazoret the Fervent. 3 mana, discard a card, deal 2 damage to each opponent. So it's 3 mana, get 6 mana. Alright, so let's get the beaters. Just big, beefy creatures. Inferno Titan. Steel Hellkite. Big beater that turns into removal. Chandra's Spitfire. This one doesn't seem like much. However, assume we have Hazoret the Fervent out. Discard a card. Deal 2 damage to each opponent. Whenever an opponent is dealt non-combat damage, she gets +3/+0 until end of turn. So, one opponent took 2 damage, she gets +3/+0. Oh, a second opponent took 2 damage, another +3/+0. And a third opponent took 2 damage, another +3/+0. So off 1 activation of this, she becomes a 10/3. Playing 1 land makes her a 10/3. We're going to do that one. Playing an instant or sorcery, in which all of our instant and sorceries deal damage. So that's pretty much going to be double. So from playing instant sorcery from him, she's going to get +9/+0. And the instant or sorcery is also going to deal damage. And for each 3 targets of those, she will get another +3/+0. And our last beater, Storm Breath Dragon. One Vandal Blast, just because you have to have some kind of artifact removal. Can't have enchantment removal, not in red. One Anger. There is a few ways to get it in the graveyard, but most of the time we're probably just going to cast it, block with it, or attack and hope they block. A Blood Moon, because we're mono red, so perfect card. And to protect our Neheb, Lightning Greaves, 2 mana equipment, quick creature has haste and shroud. Darksteel Plate, make him indestructible. Swiftfoot Boots, quick creature has hexproof and haste. Oh, let's see, where are we at? Feel like I'm missing something here. It's right here. Okay. Grinning Ignis, which seems a little weird, but there is a little weird, quirky combo with him that we'll get into here in a minute. Actually, when I get done with these 2 cards, I'll just pick up the mana rocks because it's got to do with those. But pretty much 3 mana, 2/2. You can pay a red to return it to your hand and add 2 colorless and a red to your mana pool. And you can only activate the ability anytime you can activate a sorcery, or anytime you can cast a sorcery. Braid of Fire. So for our instants, we can do them on our upkeep without tapping lands, and then we do have a couple mana sinks that this goes very well with. Alright, the Green Ignis. I'm going to put him right there so we won't forget him. So, mana rocks. Extraplanar Lens. Cage Sun. So all of these are doubling mana pretty much for us. Gauntlet of Power. This one does not, but he is mana wrap. Solemn. The Not Sad Robot. Hedron Archive. And again, for me, I've said this in other videos, mana rocks that do something later on in the game when you don't need them are amazing. So this one, pay 2, sack it, draw 2 cards. And this guy is mana ramp, and if you control a creature power 5 or greater, he deals 2 damage to a player. Mind Stone adds 1 mana. You can pay 1, sack it, draw a card. Seer's Lantern, 3 mana, adds 1 colorless mana, and you can scry 2 off of it. Everflowing Chalice, Soul Ring, Ruby Medallion, and Hazard's Monument. Alright, so quirky 3-card combo. Grinning Ignis, Ruby Medallion, Hazard's Monument. So both of these reduce the mana cost of red spells, well, this Monument red creatures, Medallion, red spells by 1. So essentially that makes the Grinning Ignis cost 1 red mana. So every time you go through this loop, you will have to tap 1 land, in which if you've got the doublers out, you can do this loop 2, 3, 4 times off 1 mountain. But assuming all we have are these and him, you will pay 1 red to play him, pay a red, bounce him, get 3. So 2 mana gives you 3 mana. Then use that red to cast him, tap a mountain to return him to your hand, get 3. Now you have 3 colorless and 1 red. So you don't net a shit ton of mana off of him, but you do net some mana. So you could potentially end up late game, if you've got the doublers, he could probably net you 15, 20, 30 mana, which is relevant later on with our finishers. Alright, mana sinks for Braid of Fire. Welder Automaton, 4 mana, deal 1 damage to each opponent. Captivating Crew, 4 mana, gain control of target creature and opponent controls. Untap that creature. It gains haste until end of turn. This is another one. If we manage to get Aggravated Assault out, in our second main phase, if we have enough mana to activate this, untap all our creatures, get another combat step, and another main phase, we can start stealing their creatures one at a time. Every second main phase, our mana is going to double. Or not double, but we're going to get extra mana for all damage each opponent's taken throughout the whole course of the turn, including every combat step. So eventually, we will have all of our opponent's creatures on our side of the board taking infinite combat steps. We have Gamble. Hey, can't get those good. Alright, Planeswalkers. One Chandra the Mind Sculptor, because she does everything you want a red Planeswalker to do. Chandra Flamecaller. The main reason she's in there is her 0 ability. We get a Wheel of Fortune off her, which is awesome. And again, the Chandra the Mind Sculptor, the +1 is card advantage. A lot of times, I'm not going to deal 2 damage to each opponent. I'm going to play the card. Unless it's land, then it's +1, get 6 mana. Oh, Koth of the Hammer. Because that -2 gives us a whole lot of mana. And this is Chandra, Fire of Kaladesh. She taps to deal 1 damage to target player. If Chandra has dealt 3 or more damage this turn, exile her, then returns to the battlefield transformed. Whenever you cast a red spell, untap Chandra. And she transforms into Chandra Roaring Flame. Deals 2 damage to a player for a plus, -2, 2 damage to a creature, -7, 6 damage to each opponent. Each player dealt damage this way gets an emblem that lightning bolts them at the beginning of their upkeep. That's nice, I didn't even read that. I mean, I knew it was 6 damage, but I didn't know they took a lightning bolt every upkeep. And Chandra Blaze. Regardless of how much card draw we have, we're mono red, and we're doing a lot of ramp, so we're going to empty our hands. So her -2 pretty much draws us 3 cards, and that's what we're going to be doing most of the time with her. Alright, instants and sorceries. Incendiary Command, 5 mana, choose 2. Deal 4 damage to target player. Deal 2 damage to each creature. Destroy target non-basic land. Each player discards all the cards in their hand and draws that many cards. So Wheel of Fortune we're probably going to do most of the time. And we're probably going to deal 4 damage to a player. Rift Flame, 2 mana, deal 4 damage to each player. So that pretty much reads 2 mana, get 12 mana. Sulfurous Blast. Deals 2 damage to each creature and each player if you cast a spell in your main phase that deals 3 damage to each creature and each player instead. Fiery Confluence, we're always going to choose the second mode all 3 times. 4 mana, deals 6 damage to each opponent. Volcanic Fallout, can't be countered, deals 2 damage to each creature and each player. And Sizzle, deals 3 damage to each opponent for 3 mana. So 3 mana, get 9 mana. And our main win conditions, and this wraps up the deck. Walking Ballista. Fireball, because we can make a lot of mana and divide this fireball 3 ways. Comet Storm, multi-kick twice, kill all 3 players in 1 go. And we had a new addition, thanks to Dominaria. Jaya's Immolating Inferno. Deal X damage to each of up to 3 targets. So that opponent, that opponent, that opponent. And thanks to Commander, we always have access to a legendary. And that wraps up my competitive Neheb Commander. I hope you enjoyed it. And later on in the week, Red and myself are going to be building a deck with Jessica Warrior Adept. So that'll probably be posted Friday, Saturday, maybe before, not too sure. But yeah, thanks for watching. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.